Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza and Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Biz Birthday Bash podcast. I'm here with Holly Goodman of Sablewood Paper. Hi, Holly.
Hi.
As she continues to be our wonderful and amazing temporary co-host while Cami is on maternity leave. And today we are bringing you another Q and Cake. So I think in total, Holly, we have 3 of these together now. Yeah?
Yeah, this is our 3rd. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Oh, and 33. That's my favorite number. Yay.
Oh my gosh. That's actually so meant to be. That's too funny. The lady I interviewed on the podcast this morning, her episode will come out later in May. She said, she was like, I saw that you and Cami, your biz birthday is September 16th. She was like, that's my actual birthday. Oh. And she was like so jazzed. It made me so happy too. She was like, it was meant to be.
It is.
So it was really great. But we will go ahead and get started. You guys have some great questions for us. I did pull some older ones again. So Perfect. People who like submitted them in 2020, don't be mad at me that we're just answering them now. I don't know like we've been doing. It's fine.
They're getting answered now. It's good.
They're getting answered now. So Holly, why don't you start by reading the first one?
Okie dokie. This is from Marina Springer. Hello to you both. Thanks for the great podcast. I've loved it so much since the beginning. And then a cute little smiley face. I am curious to hear from you if you give your couples planned gifts. Like, do you present them at the end, a whole stationery suite in a frame for them, or maybe a Starbucks voucher that they can calm down and drink some coffee together? Or do you give them something for their first anniversary? That's a good question.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. And you said who asked it, right? Did you say that at the beginning?
I did.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Marina.
Yay. Thank you, Marina. So I don't know about you, Holly, but I think at the beginning, I was like really into trying to do like once a client booked with me, I would get them a greetable to try to like send them a greetable to be like, thank you so much. And I'm so excited to work with you. I think if I were still doing it today, I would probably take a slightly different approach. I mean, I did stop doing that at some point because I think there's something more to be said about the level of service you provide is more of a gift because it was, let's see if I can remember her name, Lindsay of Hoopla House Creative talked about this on her episode, People Over Profit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so that whole entire episode is such a great listen because she talks about how to like basically wow your client and gift your client during the actual service process. So like at the very beginning up front, maybe you ask them all of everything that they want in a suite, but maybe they cut back the liners or the wax seals because they can't afford them. You know, that's an upgrade they don't want to do. And then she said sometimes she'll like surprise people and reintroduce that later down the line to be like, you expressed up front that this is something you wanted and you cut it out, but I'm gifting it to you as part of your package. And she builds all of that stuff, the way she does that, like into her pricing. Like she has a very good grip on all of that because it's a very amazing strategic business move, I would say, but also beneficial to your clients. And I think I'm more of a fan of that, to be honest, than like a gift that's separate from the experience.
I love that. That's a really cool way of gifting your clients something without throwing something extra in that they didn't ask for. Like I'm personally not a coffee drinker, so a Starbucks gift card isn't really going to like wow me. I'm just going to give it to my husband. You know? So like I really like the idea of doing that, something that they expressed interest in at the consultation or during a questionnaire fill out or something like that, that they just maybe can't fit into their budget, or maybe like they had to choose between that and something else. And now you can kind of say, hey, surprise, like I upgraded you to spot letterpress for this particular piece, or I threw in some wax seals for this, or whatever it might be. Like, I think that's such a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally just give them, it depends on like how much they spend with me basically, but I build everything into my pricing because I don't believe in like doing anything out of pocket, I guess.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I give, most of my couples get like a pair of Val books because that's one of my best sellers and people really love those. And the people that spend a little bit more, like they go all out and they get foil and letterpress and it's a big quantity or it's a big investment, I'll usually send them a folio or a box, like a linen box that they can store their pieces in as keepsakes. But again, that's all built into the pricing. So like if they're spending $6,000, like a $40 or $50 folio or box, that's already in that price. So it seems like I'm giving them a gift out of the, just the kindness of my heart. I had $50 just laying around, but like, no, they're actually paying for it.
Okay.
Yeah. And I hope none of my clients are listening to this right now, but that's how I roll with that kind of thing.
Well, let's just put it this way. You're budgeting for it. You're preparing for it rather than being like, I'm sneakily charging you for this gift. No, it's part of the process.
Yeah.
So
no, I would never like sneakily charge somebody for something. But like, I think that it is kind of dipping into the padding that I put into my pricing a little bit. Because I do have like kind of a whoopsie Band-Aid sort of extra bit that I add into quotes just in case like paper isn't available. So I have to order it from somewhere else that I wasn't planning to, or,
right.
Or like my printer isn't working for some reason, like they took an unplanned vacation or like they're in the hospital, like, oh, well, got to use somebody else. Now I have to dip into that Band-Aid fund. So like it's there for that reason. It's there to spoil my clients if I want to, or to use it for emergencies.
Yes, exactly.
So,
and so that really is overall up to you, Marina, and how you want to introduce that into your process and what you want to do. But I do know, I've heard of photographers where they do send some maybe like his and her mugs or Mr. and Mrs. or Mr. and Mr. However, whatever clients you may have, you send them their 2 mugs and with maybe a Starbucks gift card. That wouldn't work for Holly per se, as we have now learned. But she does it with like a note where she like encourages them to like have a moment together, to reflect in this season. And that seems so appropriate for like her workflow and her brand and her process. So really you need to just introduce something that kind of fits your brand and how you want your clients to feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. I like all of those options.
Yes. Don't go crazy. You don't need to do anything insane.
Don't go crazy. Just a little gift just to show that you're thinking about them is totally fine.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving on to the next one. This is from Anna B. And she said, how do you take your product photos, especially on a white background? I'm using natural light, but when I edit the photo, I'm having trouble getting a clear white background. Also, how do you choose your props? Thank you.
Oh, man. That's like a whole course, I feel like.
Yeah, right? Or a whole episode.
Yeah.
We can give the basics, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the basic is definitely the natural light. You're definitely on the right track with that. And then I think it comes down to a lot of just kind of playing around in Lightroom or Photoshop or whichever editing software you use. I don't personally like to edit on my phone because I like to get a little more intense and have more control with like a mouse rather than my finger. But I mean, I think when you're photographing on a white background in natural light, it's much easier to sort of remove the white background and just kind of, and literally have like a legit digital white background in your photo.
Yeah, that's true.
Rather than like starting with a black background or like a linen background or something like that, and then removing it for your photo. That seems to be a little tough. But all of the white backgrounds in my photos are not actual backgrounds, like physical backgrounds. They are digital. Like I've removed the background from the product photo completely and then just color filled with white.
Yeah, that's a really great clarification to give, because I was going to say that my instinct and what I learned with my wedding invitation suites anyways, and this can be applied to products, was that like I didn't really want a white background, and that didn't cater towards my taste and my skills. And so then once I started using like pink and teal, like I found these fabrics at Joann's, that like really was a game changer for me. Because I agree, like if I was going to go like white background, I would do what you're saying, Holly. And it would be like a white Photoshop background.
Yeah. Otherwise you're getting like weird. You're getting like weird yellow or blue or whatever vibes. Ugh. Yeah. And you don't want that. You want white. Like just go white. White or a color, but like not that weird, like, I don't know, bluish yellow color that you get from that.
Agreed. Well, also, let's talk about props, because I freaking love props. And in the beginning of my business, I feel like I spent so much money on like ribbons and little plates, and
so much money.
I just like wanted all of the things, and I still have so many of them to this day. But I would say that the biggest thing to keep in mind with props is that you have to remember like the feeling you're going for. So like me putting my invites on an ornate silver platter that you would have found in like from the 1800s or whatever would make no sense. That didn't go like with my brand or my vibe. And I have seen people use stuff like that so beautifully. I was envious because it looks so good. And then once I realized, oh, that's not the right fit for me, it made my life a lot easier. So I'd say like the first thing to think about is just like narrowing it down to what makes the most sense like with my brand and looks natural.
Yeah. Like you wouldn't, if you have a very modern brand, you're not going to put props in from the 18th century. It just doesn't make sense. It's just like knowing how to pair typography with calligraphy, like what works best with that, or like different typefaces with other typefaces. It's all like, it's a bit of trial and error, I feel like. And when you finally find the types of props that you really like that work well with your brand, like just buy them all.
Yes.
Like all of them. But props are hard. Like you can spend a lot of money on those very quickly. And so, you know, you just have to kind of do a deep dive, I think, like you said, Elizabeth, into your brand and figure out what feelings you're trying to evoke with your photos and what works best with your designs and your stationery.
Yeah. And I like what Holly said too, just like about experimenting. Like it's okay to go thrifting and buy quite a few different things, because then you can kind of be layering those into your images over time, and you can say, you know what, I really like how this looks, but I'm not a fan of how this option looks. This doesn't make any sense, you know? Like at the beginning, I was like using clothespins in my photos. Like what? Why? What was I doing?
What was I trying to do?
I don't know. It didn't make any sense. They were small and cute, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that was like where my brain was. And then now, of course, I'm like, there's so much about that doesn't like add up at all. So we've all been there. We've all done that, you know, and we're trying to like figure out what to use. Just don't like, let's like leave the shoes out of it.
Please.
You know? If we're,
if
we're photographing invitations, there are very few people in the world that can do it right. And like, we're not any of us here.
Yeah.
There's like 3 people, maybe 2 or 1 that I would trust taking shoes with stationery, and that's about it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you just reminded me when you said thrifting. I actually have a rule when I'm buying props is I don't spend more than $5 ever.
Per prop.
Per prop. Yep.
Okay.
So anytime we're like out at a thrift store or at like an antique mall or something, every time I pick something up, my husband's like, that's $7. You can't have that. And I'm like, okay. I have to put it back because, you know, you just set that limit and then you're not going crazy spending, you know, $30 on like like a vintage ring box. They'd be so much more than that. But Like,
if we're going to adjust for inflation, Holly, like $7 is the new $5.
Okay, well, all right.
I'm just teasing.
That's actually a good point, though.
I know, right? But I do think I think that's a really good rule, like a really good rule to have.
Yeah, like set a limit and like really stick to it, because otherwise you'll find yourself with 1,000 props that each cost like $20 and you're just in debt from props, and there's no need for that.
Yes. Completely agree. Okay, I'm also going to read the next question just because it's a bit longer.
Oh, okay.
If that is okay.
Yeah, go for it.
And I think there's a reference of the infamous horse situation in this question. So, all right, everybody, get ready. This one's from Grace Manning Art. She says, first things first, I love you guys and have gained so much from the podcast, even not being a stationer myself. I recommend it to every creative person I know. Oh, thank you, Grace. But to keep things short and sweet, I'll say thank you times a million and just get to my question. My business is primarily commission work for watercolor portraits of pets, people, families, etc. After just celebrating my first full year of being full-time, I got my first ever complaint about my custom work. I know Cammie has mentioned a similar experience with a horse painting. And let me tell you, it really feels awful. The situation was luckily resolved quickly after having the customer look at the original reference photo beside their finished piece, and they decided it wasn't actually an issue on my end, but with the reference photo they provided me. So here's my question. I don't currently have my customers sign a contract for portraits and custom work, but this situation is making me rethink that. Would you recommend sending a contract for single item custom work, especially saying you get what you get, no refunds? Or should I just put that verbiage onto my website and point people back there if they ever have an issue? I hope this makes sense. Thank you again for everything you guys do.
All right. First of all, so sorry that happened. That is awful.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it all worked out, though.
Yeah. Nobody loves that.
No, that is not the best feeling in the world, for sure. Elizabeth, you do a lot, or you did a lot more custom artwork like that than I do currently. What would you recommend?
Yeah, I think I would recommend kind of what she is actually saying there at the end about the verbiage on their website. I think if you're getting into commission territory where maybe it's like a Schitt's Creek level painting of a family that's massive, right?
Yeah.
Like that would probably be pretty good to have like a contract for, you know? Like takes up the entire wall of like somebody's home, or it's like a mural, or it's like a really big, really like physically big, challenging project. And not to say that it's not challenging, of course, to paint people's like pet portraits on the scale that you're doing them, but it is something that's very easy for people to click an order and they're signed up. It doesn't require a lot of back and forth discussion. And so for me, that doesn't quite reach the level of needing a contract, but having terms and conditions, I would actually have like a terms and conditions link directly on that listing. Maybe even like right underneath where the price and add to cart button is, that basically says like, by purchasing from me, you are agreeing to the following terms and conditions. And in Squarespace, you can actually even make something like that a pop-up, I believe. Like after you hit add to cart, it would be like a custom pop-up that sometimes it's like a form that asks you additional questions, but you might be able to do it in a way too that basically is like, you're agreeing to these terms and conditions here with the link. But at least having it on the listing is essential. And if you can figure out a way to do, I don't know, I love me some automated emails. It's not that hard to set up in Flowdesk or whatever you have, that somebody makes a purchase through your website for that listing specifically. There could be an automated follow-up email or a welcome email that outlines what you need from them, and resets expectations as well, to basically say like, this is a get what you get, no refund situation in a nice way. And if you have problems with that, like, please contact me so that I can go ahead and cancel your order. Like, you know?
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I didn't even think about something like that for a Squarespace or Shopify website. Like, what a great way to do that without having some sort of contract in place or something like that. It's just a, hey, excuse me, by the way, don't forget to read over this before you actually pay for this. Because once you pay for it, like you're locked in. And
Yep.
this is going to like, maybe even in that terms and conditions section, you can kind of have examples of like, here's the best practices for sending in your reference photos. And like, here's some examples of past work that I've done. Here's a couple's portrait I painted. And then here's the photo that was used for the reference. And so that people can see like, oh, this is where she's going to take a little bit of artistic liberty. And this is where we're going to really focus on getting it right. And I don't know, like having those sort of side by side things might be a good thing to have in there too.
Yep. Absolutely. Anything you can do to like communicate with them as much as possible. Cause like people don't understand good photos. No. They just don't.
No, they think funny. You can like view the pet from any direction.
And they just magically know what their face looks like. It's fine.
Oh my gosh. That just reminded me. I had somebody I did their like pet portrait for. It was not a portrait. It was a line illustration. And they sent in a reference photo. I just kind of think of pet portraits as like beautiful watercolor or oil paintings, but you're right. It's still a portrait. But they sent in a photo and I told them that we were going to do like whatever they sent in. So they sent in something. It was kind of like the chest up of this beautiful golden retriever. And I sent them the photo or the illustration. They were like, oh, well, you know, we'd like him to have his legs because like he's got legs. So we want them in the illustration. And I was like, oh, okay, great, cool. So I like drew some legs on him randomly. And they were like, oh, by the way, he only has 4 toes on his left paw. So you're going to need to remove one of those toes. And I was like, or 3 toes or whatever. And I was like, how would I know that though? Like this is why we need reference photos.
How would I know?
I just could not believe it. Like, like clients just kind of expect you to like read their minds, I guess.
Yes, exactly. So yeah,
having that kind of stuff in your terms and conditions is great. Like, spell it out for them that way. Like, hey, I don't know your pet, even though I'd love to, but you know, I need to have these reference photos for these reasons. Like, I don't know if your pet is missing. It's like one of its toes on its left leg. Like
that would be a great place to have an extra notes box on the order. Like again with the pop-up form, like, are there any specific, what would that count as? What am I trying to think of the word? Qualities? Any specific
blemishes?
Yeah. Blemishes? Quirks, characteristics and features. Is there a characteristic or feature that's very important to you? Because maybe they love their nose. Maybe they love the whiskers above their eyes. You just like don't know what people really want to be like accentuated.
It's so true.
And there's a lot. Yeah, there's just like a lot to cover. And even when I had Emily Lemoyne, she does amazing pet portraits. She painted Zuko and Azula for us.
Oh.
And like even when I sent her the photos, she made like a creative decision, like looking back on it makes total sense. But like I should have clarified like up front, like, hey, her paws are this way because like X, Y, and Z. And by the way, it's like not an issue. I'm obsessed with the portraits. It's like not a thing at all. But it was funny because it kind of put me in like the client perspective of like, oh, I totally didn't. Like I probably should have, you know, she's like not in my head. Like I would have needed to have like pointed that out to her like directly.
Yeah. No, that's so true. You don't really think about it from a client perspective until you are the client paying the money to get it done.
And we freaking love those paintings. They're in our master bedroom. They have been ever since
I would like to see those.
Yeah, I know. I got them for Will's birthday in, was it 2018 or 2019? Man, I can't remember now. But yes, that was like That's such a great
gift.
It was so special. And they're just like so beautiful. I can't handle it. So yes, people obviously get very attached to their pets. Grace, I hope that through all of that.
That
You do have
long-winded
like
answer.
some semblance of an answer at this point. And for anyone else out there who's doing work like this, gives you a little bit of a better idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yay. Okay. Next question.
Next question. Yes, Holly.
All right. Holly will read this.
Yes.
This is from at Baldwin Card Designs. When introducing a new product, what steps do you take to protect your booty from liability issues associated with that product? For instance, do you need to do more than just post a warning sticker or statement on your products and packaging when they could be a potential choking hazard, etc.? And
I had not ever thought about this before, so I was hoping that maybe you would know.
I do. I have like a very vague answer for this because
okay.
This, I would say, I'm going to kind of focus on like the choking hazard thing because it sounds like you might be doing some things for tiny adults. That if you're doing anything for children, you have to get your product registered with like some sort of, I'm not sure of the exact organization or like branch of government or whatever it is, like lawmakers that you have to register with, but you have to basically make a bunch of samples and send them to them to get their approval basically to sell your product, like so that you can cover your booty liability wise if a child chokes on a small part in your product. And, you know, you have to have proper warning labels attached to that product. And they will actually kind of tell you how big this warning label needs to be, what it needs to say, where it needs to be placed, how many places it needs to be placed, like all of these things. There's a lot of rules and regulations around that. That's for kids' toys and products, anything that's going to like a child under the age of 12 or whatever it is. When it's like a general product, like any kind of made for anybody, like adults, and it's got small parts, I'm not really sure what the actual process is for that or what you should do. But I feel like putting that notice as many places as large as you can would be just like the best way to go safety wise. Like put it on your website under the product description, and then also maybe add a little sticker to the packaging that says like warning, like small parts, keep out of reach of children kind of stuff. But I think we probably would need a little clarification on what kind of products you are like referring to when it comes to liability issues and protecting yourself from those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I almost think it might be a product that is like catered towards adults, but like maybe she's worried about if kids get their hands on it. Like like acrylic, like, you know, like acrylic stir sticks. Like you could totally like stick one of those things down your throat.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. But I also kind of feel like if it's something that's made for adults, like an acrylic stir stick, you know, you can't just go out into the world thinking that every adult out there is going to give something inappropriate to their child and like they could hurt themselves. Like at some point, it's not your liability; it's the parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So. I mean, I'd have to, I'm looking at your Instagram right now to see what we might be talking about. But so far I'm just seeing like really adorable little cutouts of, it looks like maybe cardstock or something. So yeah, have to like message us, probably Elizabeth or me, and, you know, give us some more background because I really only know about like children's toys and how they're really, really hard to get approval for to sell with the liability issues. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got at this point. Sadly.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect. We just had like, I know for a fact have never had a question like that before. And I was like, oh, this is very new and something to think about. And I had no idea, Holly, like you said, that there's a special process for things catered towards children, which I'm not surprised by, I guess. So
yeah. Children have a lot of rights these days, according to John Mulaney.
Yeah.
I just watched his stand-up last night, so I'm in John Mulaney mode right now.
That's so funny. I love it. Okay. Next one is from the Smoky Rose Press. And she asked, I do a lot of custom watercolor work. Is it wrong or unethical to scan the artwork and sell prints of the work in my shop? Sometimes other customers have expressed interest in purchasing a piece I made custom for someone else. Thank you for your input.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm of the opinion that like as long as it says in your contract that you own the rights to what you create, it's not wrong or unethical to have it in your art shop. I mean, I know like Cammie's, so much of Cammie's work like appears in multiple places throughout her website and her products. And it might have been painted for someone at some point.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I think even without it being in your contract, although it absolutely should, like you should definitely have it in your contract. You own the artwork regardless, whether it's in your contract or not. But if you explicitly say, like Elizabeth said, in your contract, I reserve the right to use any custom work created for this client in any way I see fit, then yeah, absolutely. Like go forth and put it everywhere. Like sell prints of the watercolor florals that you're painting or, cress or things like that. Like do it. Somebody may have like commissioned it as custom work, but it's still your artwork at the very end of the day. Because I'm sure they didn't pay for exclusive rights to it. So
yeah, definitely not. And I mean, sometimes clients will come to you too, because like if they see some of your different invitation suites even, and they're like, hey, I like the flowers from this, but I like the butterfly over on that one. Like, can we incorporate those like into my suite? Like, well, absolutely. Why not? You painted all that stuff to begin with. It's yours. It doesn't have to be like repainted every single time. Like the custom element is that you're building them something that like they've asked for,
Right. Yes. Yeah. I actually saw somebody say something that really was kind of like a wow moment for me. Like, oh, I never thought of it that way. But there's a total difference between custom and bespoke. And like custom is something that you can like you said, Elizabeth, like pick and pull pieces from other things and make something custom from that. It doesn't have to be from scratch. But bespoke is literally like we are starting from nothing. Like we are creating every last little piece down to like the typography for you. And I think that what Smoky Rose Press is talking about is like it's custom, but like you didn't pay for bespoke, you paid for custom. Yes. And so now I can use that custom work anywhere I'd like. So yeah, I think please put it out into the world and have people buy it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have an illustration I did of the transept, which is in Cincinnati, Ohio, that I have had like a few different couples come back to me since 2018, to be like, I found your illustration somewhere online. Like, can I use it? And normally I'm like, yeah, like here, it's like a $75 licensing fee. Like, okay, this is kind of funny. Some of you guys are probably listening to this because you guys kind of like put me in line the other day in the Facebook group, because I kind of threw that out there. I was like, oh, I licensed my old like watercolor illustrations for $75, because it just that's not something that, I don't know, that I am super particularly attached to anymore.
Yeah.
And there were a few of you that were like, oh, it should be like at least 300. And I was like, well, I mean, like, yeah, power to you. Like, if that's like what you're charging, like, absolutely charge that. So I want to say, like, yes, you can absolutely charge like another 300, 350 if they're, using one of your illustrations in something. It doesn't have to be $75 because according to you guys, that is not enough. And that is fair.
Well, it could also depend a lot too on the artwork itself. Like, is it something that is very high demand? Because if so, like raise that licensing fee. Or like, was it really intense to paint? Like, is there a lot going on? Is it a large illustration? Like, I think that there's lots of different levels that you can kind of go at, where $75 would be totally appropriate for like a small line drawing for like a wax seal, maybe. Like a watercolor portrait or a watercolor painting of like a big, huge venue, would be a totally different cost, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. And also, of course, it's like, I think that especially because people are talking about this in the context of like somebody's coming to you that you had no previous ties working with,
Yeah.
and they're asking to license something from you, then yes, like $300 to $350. In my head, I was like, I just deviated to 75 because that's what, like, if I had worked with a client and they were like, hey, I want to use this like on a napkin, or I want to use this like on the dance floor. Can I license it? And I'm like, yeah, that's like a one-time like $75 fee on top of your package. So that's kind of like where my brain was.
No, that makes sense. Absolutely. You want to make your current clients happy. You don't want to like just rake them over the coals with licensing fees and stuff. But I totally agree. Somebody like out of the blue says, I'd like to license your artwork of Mount Rainier or whatever it is. Like, well, okay, I don't know you, so it's going to be XYZ. This is the only thing you're getting from me, you know? But like if you're getting a bunch of stuff.
Excuse me.
I don't know
Stranger.
you. Here's an $8,000 charge. Don't do that. That's not true.
Levels of 0. I don't know you at all. More expensive to 10. I know you a lot less expensive.
$10.
$10, please.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, that's perfect.
We got on a total tangent there.
I know. I love it. Okay. Do you want to read the last one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
This is from Sarah of Plumeria Papery. I love that name. That's so pretty. Sarah says, I'm inspired by all of the unique and artistically done envelope calligraphy that I see artists designing. I love all of the swoops, the illustrations, and the divergence from the ordinary. My question is regarding USPS. How legible does envelope calligraphy need to be in order for the USPS to process it? Would it be pressing the envelope of USPS processing standards to address an envelope vertically, for example, versus horizontally, and then send it off in the mail? I would love to use these fun techniques, but I've been wondering how the post office feels about such things. Amen, girl.
Amen. Okay. What do they feel about such things? It's sometimes hard to know because, exactly. It's like winning the lottery sometimes. I will say, I know that if you like intentionally address something vertically, they will charge you for a non-machinable charge. Yes. So you would need a forever stamp plus the additional 20 cents or whatever it is now. I can never keep track.
It's 20 cents. You got
exactly.
it. You're on it.
Sarah, what I would say is, first of all, they're a lot better about like getting things through than people do give them credit for. The machines can read all sorts of like crazy things. I would say as long as like the zip code is very legible, that's very, very important.
Yes.
But I would say like do some tests. Like send some crazy fun RC envelopes to some friends, send some to yourself and drop them off at a post office locally to see what happens. Cause you can get away with a lot. And Lindsay of the Postman's Knock, one of my favorite calligraphy vlogs, she talks about that in one of she has a couple blog posts, I think, actually, that are all about what she calls envelope art, because it's not just calligraphy. It's like everything under the sun. Divergence from the ordinary, as you said, Sarah, which I loved so much. So that's kind of my thought.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think 100% all of that, do a lot of testing and make sure that especially your local post office will accept it, but also like send it to some people across the country and see how their post offices do. I would say that with calligraphy, you're always going to get a little more pushback. So like Elizabeth said, make sure the zip code is extremely legible. That's the most important thing. Don't do any like fun things with that, because you want the post office machines to read that, and they're numbers. So they should be pretty legible anyway. But make sure, like I'm always preaching about on here, like your expectations are set for your clients, because you never want to like say to your client, present something to them that's really cool and out of the ordinary, and they love it, and then you mail everything out, and then some post office along the way is like, this is the worst, I can't read this, we got to send it back. And then your clients are not prepared for something like that, because it can happen at some post offices that are just not really like good sports about calligraphy. So just, make sure that that's communicated with your clients and say, hey, like, I want to try this, or I've done this before and it works fine, but just in case, be prepared that if something doesn't get delivered, like I've sent you some extra envelopes, or I'd be happy to resend these for you for X fee or something like that. But expectations, always set them up front for, especially when you're doing something off the wall, like, really wild envelope art or something like that. And then I think you'll be totally fine, because it's a very cool thing. And I think you should explore that if you love it.
Yeah, I think definitely do so. Yeah, it can be very hit or miss with USPS, and that is what makes it the best.
Yes, the best. We love the post office.
Yeah. They really do. They really do deserve so much more credit than people are willing to give them sometimes. And we do love them and appreciate them. But we had somebody in the Facebook group, because we have a Facebook group for the A to Z directory, and somebody had asked the other day, basically like, hey, I went to USPS. I have 3 inserts in this invitation suite and a wax seal. It's a standard A7 size, and they told me it would be a parcel rate. And I said, literally, that is like impossible. I don't know who told you that. That's like impossible. You need to like go to another one and get another opinion, because nothing about that makes sense. But
actually, what you should do first is you should buy my USPS mailing template that has an open slot that is actually 1/4 of an inch thick, which is the maximum thickness that you can do to get a letter rate mailing. And you can feed your invitation through that slot, just like the one that they have at the post office, but they'll never let you have it because they're brats. You can feed your invitation through that slot, and if it fits, it is never going to be parcel rate, like unless it is so rigid that you can never bend it. But it's probably not going to be the case. But like if you can fit it and it's got a wax seal and it's got 2 envelopes and double thick paper and stuff, then you should be good to go.
Yeah, so, if you're not putting a piece of acrylic in a paper envelope, basically, you're gonna be fine.
you have to be able to bend it a little bit, because your envelopes have to go through the sorting machines. Even if they're hand canceled, they still have to go through sorting machines. So like as long as you can fit it through a 1/4 inch opening and you can sort of bend it, you are good. You are not going to pay parcel rate. And if they're telling you that, you need to go somewhere else.
Yes.
Please don't pay parcel rate for that. It's crazy.
Yes, exactly. Very much agreed. But I feel like we had such a fun collection of questions this time. So thank you everyone for what you submitted to us. If you would like to join the A to Z directory and have, of course, appreciated Holly being here, please go to bizbirthdaybash.com/Holly, and you'll see that there is a specific link to sign up for the A to Z directory there on her page, so that she gets the kickback and the credit for the referral. And then I was also going to say, if you have any more questions, woo, where was my brain going with that? I was like, you can also do that on the website by going to bizbirthdaybash.com/Q and cake. Or if you just go to the main site and scroll to the bottom, there is a little Q and cake link if you don't want to type it all in. That'll take you to the spot to ask questions, because we always need new and wonderful questions. And we love answering them from you guys.
And you guys have great questions, always.
Always.
Keep them coming.
Always. All right, guys. Talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey guys, we just wanted to hop in and talk about one of our amazing resources, the A to Z directory. All of us have thought at some point, how did she do that, or how did she make that? And maybe you don't know where to start or how the heck to produce this amazing product you've dreamt up.
Well, the A to Z directory is the missing puzzle piece in your biz, you guys, seriously. So it's built in the form of a yearly membership, and it's your one-stop shop for finding suppliers and vendors for all the things. Literally where to print everything from custom invitations, greeting cards, mugs, koozies, acrylic printing, letterpress, custom ribbon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it literally goes from A to Z. From acrylic printers to zipper pouches, we have it in the A to Z directory.
We want to help all of you search less and create more with this list of 300 plus vendors and suppliers. Don't worry, they're very organized. It's not going to be overwhelming and confusing when you join. And this membership also includes access to a private Facebook community. It's incredibly active and involved. And if you need a question answered fast, that is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, our Facebook group really is the best, you guys. Everyone is so helpful in there. And we're in there too, answering questions you guys might have. So it's a great way to get access to us and ask us things without sliding into our DMs. So we're more likely to answer you in the Facebook group, just saying. Anyway, also in the Facebook group, this is new for 2020 and we're really excited about it. We are hosting monthly Power Hour Q&A sessions that are live, and these are only available to our A to Z directory members. So you can hop in with us live and ask us all your burning questions in real time and just hang out with us every month. And we do these at different times so you can actually be there live, and the replays are always available in the Facebook group for members.
This resource is priced at $147 a year, which honestly is extremely affordable and is full of so many benefits, such as exclusive vendor coupons for members only. And we would love to have you guys join. Seriously, it's kind of like our family and our tribe. So visit bizbirthdaybash.com/directory to sign up today and use coupon code podcast2020 to receive $20 off your first year. That's podcast, all caps, 2020 for $20 off your first year.
We can't wait to see you in the Facebook group.